What's up, guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Cello the Fashion Fairy. If you're stopping by for the first time, you're welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome back. Good to have you here. Today we'll be showing you how to make this beautiful corset top. See you in my tutorial.
Every single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
So these are the things that you'll be needing to put together these pieces. You'll be needing your fabric, you'll be needing your lining, of course the pattern paper from our last tutorial. If you're yet to watch this, guys, please go and watch it before you continue with this one. So here I've put my fabric on fold and I've also put my lining on fold, making sure that the two folded parts are equally aligned. You have to be really sure this part is well aligned, guys. If not, you're either going to have excess or not enough. So we're just going to place our center front pattern on the folded edge. Please, you have to make sure that this is properly aligned so that you don't have any excess or loss. If you're coming by for the first time, thank you for stopping by. Please consider joining the DIY fam by clicking on the subscribe button. We post new tutorials every week, so you would not want to miss out on any of our tutorials. So this is me pinning all the pattern pieces together. Like I said, if you've not watched this video of us drafting this pattern from scratch, please go back and watch this video so that you will get this pretty done quickly. Okay, so I'm just pinning all the patterns on my fabric and my lining pieces. I like to do both of them together, put both of them together so that it's easy for me to work with. So this is actually why I love working with patterns, right? Because it helps you save fabric. Imagine what we would have been doing if we didn't have to do all these ones. So see how much fabric or how less of the fabric I'm using doing this thing just because it is pattern drafting. So notice that I numbered all my patterns, so it's pretty easy for me to put them together. So remember that when we were drafting the pattern, I told you that I wasn't going to add any hem allowance, but now I'm going to add it while cutting. So here you find out that I added ½ inch to the hem, and this will serve as my hemming allowance. So I've also added all the allowances I need to the pattern, so it's pretty easy to work with this pattern. So I'm just going to cut off whatever I don't need. If your ½ inch game is not lit like mine, please make sure you measure to make sure that you have exactly ½ inch that you will use for the hemming allowance. So I'm cutting up the number 2, and I am going to quickly notch the areas that need to be notched. Now guys, I want you to pay attention to this part, because if you notch your patterns well, or your pieces well rather, you are going to find out that it will be so easy for you to put them together. So make sure you figure out the points that you want to notch. It can be your bust point, your under bust, or your waist point, but make sure you notch your waist points as well. So this is me cutting out number 3 of this pattern, making sure that I don't have any excess anywhere, and I'm just going to cut this out pretty good. So please take your time in doing this, guys, just to make sure you get it right. Don't be in a hurry. Make sure you pin down your patterns well so that they don't shift while you are cutting what you don't need out. I'm also adding ½ inch to that point as well so that we can use it as my hemming allowance. Remember, I've added 1½ inches to my side as well. You are allowed to add as much or less as you may prefer. So now that we are done with my front pieces, I'm just going to go ahead and notch my under bust line and my waist line. You can also go ahead and notch your bust point line if you're a beginner. If not, I didn't need to do that. I just needed to match what I already had. So we're done with the front pattern, and we're just going to move over quickly to the back, and we're just going to do exactly the same thing that we did. So here is my back piece. Sorry guys, I ran out of lining fabric, my blue lining fabric, so I had to use the black that was available. Please don't be like me, make sure you have enough fabric to do this project. Okay, so I'm cutting out the back, and remember that in my previous video I said that if you needed to add loop to this, you were going to follow the loop line that I added there, but I decided to add a zipper allowance instead. That's actually why I decided to show you how I cut the back, so that you will see me adding the 1-inch zip allowance. So here I added 1 inch for our zip allowance, but like I said, if you're using a loop, just follow the tutorial that I made for that and cut that off as well. So this is 1 inch for zip allowance, and I'm just going to cut this off. So like that, we're done with the back as well, and I'm just showing you the line to cut if you are using a loop. So our patterns are all good and set to go, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Don't forget to notch your waistline for the back patterns. And for this next stage, we'll be needing our Regilene boning. Now this is what it looks like when it's ironed. We'll be needing our airstay as well, and I've also gone ahead to put my airstay on my fabric. You can also do it for your lining piece as well, but I decided to skip it. So I just showed you where I put my notches. So what I will just do is to match all my notches together, and I'm going to be attaching them. First I'm going to pin them, then I am going to sew on that line, the 1/2 inch that I left. So this is me aligning the notched points. So you would want to do this for all your pieces. Take your time and pin them, and this is how you're going to be pinning them. You place this one on the other one and you pin them, matching the notched points. Very, very important to match the notched points, guys. Very important. Did I say that already? Okay, now we're done with pinning, and this is what we have so far. So I'm just going to go ahead to my machine, and I'm going to sew on 1/2 inch seam allowance. So this is my back. I'm just showing you the back, how you're going to attach it as well. Just the same thing with the front. Sorry, my camera went, I don't even know what happened to my camera at this point, but I'm just showing you that I saw a bit of puckering at the bust point, so I decided to remove 1/2 inch from it. So I measured 1/2 inch from my sewing, as in the sewing line, the line there, yes, and I measured 1/2 inch and removed the excess there. So I measured 1/2 inch from that line, and I just removed the excess at that point because it was so pointy. So after I did that, I also did that to my fabric as well, to remove the pointy part, and I'm just going to attach the front and the back with my seam allowance of 1.5 inches. So whatever I do to the fabric, I'm also going to do to the lining of many colors. Sorry guys. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead. Before we do that, we're just going to remove that back zipper bulge. So I'm matching my waist notches together, and I'm just going to mark 1/2 inch from that point inwards. So I'm going to measure 1/2 inch just to cut away that zipper bulge. If you've been on my channel long enough, you'll notice that I don't like it at all, so I always remove it. So this is 1/2 inch. So making sure that all the pieces are properly aligned, we're just going to draw a line connecting it to the back width and then to the hemline as well. Please make sure that whatever you're doing to the fabric, you're also doing to the lining piece as well. So this does not affect your measurement, guys. It does not affect it at all. What it does is that it makes it sit better on your back. You're going to see it at the end of the day, so just chill. So I'm just going to cut it off, and I'm going to do the same thing to my lining piece as well. Yes, so whatever you do to your fabric, that's the same thing you're going to do to your lining piece, making sure that everything is properly aligned. You are going to do exactly the same thing. So if you're still here, guys, thank you for watching so far. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Tell your friends to tell theirs, to tell their neighbors and their sweethearts that I am here to blow their minds. Okay, so watch that I'm doing the same thing on the lining piece as well. So I'm just going to quickly cut this out. Like I said, it does not affect your measurement in any way. So we're done with this part already. Yay! Our pieces are coming together. I just like when I bring pieces together. Okay, so this is the front and this is the back. So we're just going to put right sides to right sides. And I'm still going to match all those notches. You see why those notches are important? You just have to match them. And when you match them, it makes your life pretty easy. So you're just going to match the notched points together. I like to pin a lot. I don't know anybody that doesn't know how like to pin. Please tell me how you sew perfectly, because this is how I know how to do it. Like I prefer it like this. So pinning, and then I'll just go over to my sewing machine and I'm just going to sew. Notice that this point is not equal, but I'll show you what to do with it at the end of the day. So we're just going to sew it and hold it down. And I like to do this to make sure I'm removing exactly the allowances I put. So I put 1.5 and I'm marking that all the way down. Already done and dusted. You remember our Regilin boning, we're going to use it at this point. And this is our lining piece. I've gone ahead to do that off camera as well. And we are going to be using our Regilin boning at this time. So I'm going to show you how to prepare it as well. So what you want to do is to make sure it's not on your seam line. So you're just going to do it like so. Make sure it's not touching your seam line, preferably 1 inch from your seam line. And you're just going to cut 2 of each because you're working on 2 sides. So what I like to do is that once I cut it, I like to place it exactly where I am going to put it. Why? Because it's easier for me, guys, so that I don't get confused. So this is me cutting it, see how I place them, and this is how I'm going to arrange them so I know where to put what. So make sure you do this as well. So this is how you prepare your Regilin boning. You're just going to get a hot iron and you iron generously on it using the steam to make sure it's all ironed out. So this is what you will have at the end of the day, a well prepared boning. Look at the other one. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew in my boning channels. I did that off camera, but I'm just going to quickly show you how I did it. So I like to iron it open because it removes every excess there. So I burn it up just to remove any sharp edges. I don't want anything poking me. So I advise you to do so as well. Remove all sharp ends, and you're just going to make sure that you have all your stuff ready to sew. So at this point, you are just going to flip this sewing allowance to one side so that you can create a channel for the boning to go through. So you're just going to flip it. Please note that if you're flipping it to the right, you make sure that for that side you're flipping all your sewing allowances to the right as well, so that it is well laid down and it doesn't look disorganized. So I'm just going to flip it to this side and I'll go ahead and sew on that line. I'm just going to sew it down to create a casing for my boning to pass through. So this was what I did to the rest of the corset. I did that off camera so that this video would not be too long. So do the same for all your allowances. I decided not to put it to my side because I've noticed that it makes me quite uncomfortable. But if you don't mind, you can do that. So this is me sticking it in, making sure it's not touching any of my lines, my sewing lines. And this is what we have so far, guys. It's looking so beautiful and very neat. Make sure you trim out any thread that is hanging loose. And we are almost there, guys. So this is the sewing allowance. You may want to trim it further or not. It's actually your choice. So placing right side to right side, I'm just going to add my breast cup before I go ahead. I decided to do this at last minute. You can choose to skip this if you want, but since you are not wearing this with a bra, I suggest you add your bra cups to it. So I'm just going to use my pins to place this down the way I want it to be. Now you may ask how you would know exactly where to place it. Just know that you're going to place it below your sewing line for the line you will use to attach your lining. And then if you look at the pattern well, you will see exactly where to put it because your bust point will be prominent. So I'm just pinning it down, making sure I'm dragging it well so that there will be no wrinkles on the right side of my fabric. I'm just pinning it down, and I am going to show you what next to do. This is what we have so far, looking all beautiful. So I'm just going to go ahead to use my needle and thread. I'm going old school with this, and I am just going to use my needle and thread to pass it through that boning channel. When you do this, you're 100% certain it's not going to show on the right side of your corset. Please make sure you're using that allowance, and when you are not using it, when you are not on that line, make sure that whatever you're picking is small, so small that it will not show on the right side. So this is me securing it, making sure I'm tying a good knot right there, all secure, all safe. I like to pass it through my bra cup so it doesn't drag it so much. So this is me picking it. But when I checked on the right side of it, you would see what happened to it. So what I did was I had to loosen it a bit. So I picked it right here, and I saw that it went through, so I had to reduce it, and this was what I had. So this is how you do it. If it is showing, then you'll have to rearrange it in such a way that it wouldn't show on the right side. So this is what you're going to do for the 2 cups. I'll do this off camera so that this video will not be too long. So, but make sure you tie your knots properly. So this is what we have at the end of the day, all looking all lovely. So you're going to trim out all the excess thread that is hanging loose, and then this particular side you're just going to trim it off, and you're going to do the same thing on your lining. So now that we've done this, next thing to do is to bring our lining piece, and we're just going to turn this. So we're going to sew on this line all the way down, and we're going to turn the whole thing inside out, but we're just going to leave about 6 inches right there, so that we'll maybe 6 to 7 inches, so that we can turn this corset inside out. Now that we've done it, this is how it looks like. And wherever you made the opening, you're just going to secure it with a stitch that I'm just showing you right there. And that's it. We're going to attach our zipper, and we are definitely good to go. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial today. Please subscribe to my channel, like, share, and subscribe. I can't wait to see you try this out. Make sure you tag me on Instagram or on Facebook just to see how it turns out. You can see that mine is looking pretty good. Yes. So thank you for watching, and see you in my next tutorial. Bye.